Hey, happy Sunday, everyone. So, this is my first live stream for the channel. Well, no, that's a lie. I did my first test live stream a couple of weeks ago, and that was just to get myself sorted online and make sure I knew what I was doing. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see who turns up. Maybe no one will. That's okay. I'll just spend the next 30 to 40 minutes here talking by myself to absolutely no one. But the reason I wanted to start these live streams is because there's such a wonderful classic film online community that's on Twitter, YouTube, Discord, all these different places. And I wanted to bring all of us together to talk about classic film books, everything here in one spot. So today I have a stack of 5 books and a lot more movies to go through. And yeah, we'll just see who joins us. If you're watching, leave a comment with your name so that I can see who you are. And then we'll just get started from there. So I'll give it a couple minutes for maybe people to see the broadcast and join. And then we'll start. I hope your weekend's going well. Hey, Mike, good morning. So, okay, good, it worked. This morning I was fooling around with StreamYard trying to figure out how I could show the YouTube comments on the screen. So that works perfect. Hey, how are you? And I see Chris is here as well. Chris, thank you so much for joining the Patreon. I really appreciate it. Chris was the one of the first people to join. And yes, I did start a Patreon. I launched it on Friday evening, and we'll get to that later, but it's basically just a place for me to talk about classic film and classic film books and maybe just anything with a great group of people. So, okay, so let's get started. I have a stack of books and a stack of movies that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Which do you prefer first? Do you want to go for the books first or the films? Let me know. Hey, Tony. Good afternoon. I believe you're in the UK, right? So it's about 3:30 right now. Thanks for joining. Oh, and Dave. Okay, before we go any further, Dave is one of my closest friends. We met in the online classic film community, and I've been on his channel a few times doing live streams. His channel is fantastic. If you guys like boutique label Blu-rays, not only classic film, he also does modern film as well. He's fantastic. He has such a wonderful personality, and he's so knowledgeable about the films that he talks about. And he's a joy to watch. So if you haven't already subscribed to Cinema Dave's channel, please, I urge you to, because he is just fantastic. And I see, okay, guys, Raquel is probably one of the people that I've known the longest in this online classic film community. She is just a shining light. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. She is a force of nature. I absolutely adore her. She has a classic film blog called Out of the Past blog, and she also writes and attends film festivals all over the world. She writes reviews about modern film as well, a lot of independent features. So please check out Raquel. Again, you can find her on Twitter. I believe her handle is Raquel Stetcher, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, Raquel. And Out of the Past blog. She's fantastic. If I want to find out about any classic film books that are being newly released, she is the first person I go to. And actually, she just published a blog post. Was it yesterday, Raquel? About all the classic film books that are coming out within the next quarter. So she gives the best rundowns. If that's what you guys are looking for, classic film nonfiction books, please check Raquel out. Mike says, "Me and Dave are a great team." Yeah. I can Dave is one of those people that you meet in life that it's impossible to not get along with. Dave is just a joy, and his wife Jessie is wonderful too. Tony says, "Yeah, it's 3:30 in the afternoon in the UK." So thanks for joining, Tony. Oh, and Raquel is blushing. Oh God, Raquel, I love you. Okay. So do you guys want to start with books first, or do you want to start with Blu-rays and DVDs? Let me know. So leave a comment. Let's see how many votes we get. Because again, I got stacks of each sitting next to me. And I want to make sure that you guys are down for discussing them. I hope you're all doing well. This is a wonderful turnout. Honest to God, I thought maybe one person would show up. So Tony says books. Okay. What do you guys think? Movies. Oh, Let's see what the tiebreaker is. Chris has lots of great perks on the Patreon and great value. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that. So if anyone has just joined, I started a Patreon Friday evening. So we'll get into that later. I'll explain a bit about that as we go. But yes, Chris was one of the first people to join. Okay, you know what? Books are closest to me. Let's do books first. This one came out before Christmas. It is a reprint. It's not brand new. So it is a biography of silent film star Nazimova. And it's by Gavin Lambert. I have been dying to read this since, I think it was Raquel. Raquel posted about this in one of her book roundups before the new year. She had posted this on there, and that's where I first heard about that it was being reprinted. So I think this is probably going to be the next one that I read on my own. I just finished The Savvy Sphinx, and that was about Greta Garbo. I just finished that one a couple days ago. So this one will probably be next. I have only ever seen one film of hers, Nazimova's, and that is Camille, when she co-starred with Rudolph Valentino. I've only ever seen that film. No, that's a lie, because I have seen Salome as well. But that was quite a short film. Very stylistic, though. Very eye-catching. So yes, I'm going to read this one. Have you guys seen this around online? Are you interested in reading it? Again, she was a silent screen star, and I believe Raquel has this on her reading list as well. Yeah, so she just pointed out that she's going to be reading and probably reviewing this one soon. Hang on, let me try something out. Okay. Guys, I have all these banners that I put at the bottom that I created, and I don't want to forget about them. Ah, the joys of live streaming. Okay, so next is a biography of one of my classic film favorites. I absolutely adore Marion Davies. Again, this is not a new release. I believe it's probably just a reprint of an older book, and I believe the original came out sometime in the 70s or 80s. Don't quote me on that because I'm not absolutely sure. But this is by Fred Lawrence Giles. So I would love to read this. It's quite massive, but I love Marion Davies. I think she was a fantastic on-screen personality, especially in the silent film era. Two of her films that really stand out in my mind are The Patsy and Show People. Those are my two favorite Marion Davies films. Again, both of them are silent film. If you are looking for just a jovial, uproarious silent film to watch that'll fly by in a matter of minutes, watch one of those two. So the first one is The Patsy, and the second one is Show People. And Show People is actually quite prolific. Well, not prolific, but it's quite well known because it was filmed, portions of it were filmed on the MGM lot, which is where Marion Davies worked. And you can see the studio as it was in the late 1920s. So you see all the star dressing rooms as they were. There are certain stars that worked at MGM during that period that make cameos in Show People, and it's just fantastic. It's great to watch this film and to be able to spot silent film stars from MGM of that era just in the background, or just crossing across the camera. It's great. Show People is fantastic. There's another one here. Wait, let me just catch up with the comments first. Okay. So there's another one here. This one just came out last week, and it's about Buster Keaton, called Cameraman by Dana Stevens. So I believe a few people have already gotten their hands on this one. This one, it was one of my most anticipated books of this year. I mean, it's Buster Keaton. If there's anyone from the silent film period that I want to know more about, it's him. He was just a legend. He is a legend. I don't care what anyone says, although I don't think anyone is really going to argue with me on that point. But there's this one, and there is another one coming out about Buster Keaton, I believe next month or in March. And that one is by James Curtis. And again, Raquel also blogged about both of these books coming out on her Out of the Past blog. And the one by James Curtis, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a monster of a book, because James Curtis wrote a biography of Spencer Tracy maybe 5-6 years ago. And it was a beast. Like, I mean, this thing was a tome, but he has a wonderful way of writing about these people, stars like Spencer Tracy and Buster Keaton as well, that it's very approachable. So you see the size of these nonfiction books, and immediately you're like, oh God, do I want to read like an 800-page book? Yes, you do. Especially if it's written by James Curtis, because he's a wonderful writer. He does his research, and his writing style is very approachable, very personable, and very open. It's not like you're going to be sitting there feeling as if you're reading a textbook. It goes by very quickly, no matter how many pages it is. So I am really looking forward to his biography of Buster Keaton as well. Yeah, Raquel just confirmed the James Curtis one is long, 800 pages. You know what? The bigger, the better. In this case, in the case of classic film books, to me, size matters. Okay. Oh, my good friend Luke is here. Hey, Luke, thanks for joining. Oh, I heard the faint call of Buster Keaton and I arrived here immediately. Yeah, good. And Tony says he really wants to read Cameraman as well. Yeah, you know what? This one, so Cameraman, the Marion Davies biography that I just talked about, and one of the other books in my book pile are both included in my Patreon that I started on Friday. I implemented a book club. So I created a book club all about classic film books, and I posted a voting poll on which books. So I listed 4. Which of these 4 books do you guys want to read in March? So Cameraman, the Marion Davies biography, one of the ones I have yet to show, are all included in that vote. So I'm eager to see which book gets selected. Oh, my friend Rob's here. Hey, Rob. Also, Rob has a great YouTube channel. Vanessa has joined the YouTube Addiction Club. Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm addicted to YouTube, but I'm certainly addicted to classic film, that's for sure. Okay, so 2 more books in my pile. Both of these recommended to me by Raquel. This one is by TCM and Running Press, which I have to say, they have a fantastic partnership. If you are either a stalwart fan of classic film, or if you're a beginner, I would recommend that you start with any of the TCM Running Press books. They're a great resource. They're very well written. The photographs included inside are very well compiled, and it gives you just a broad spectrum of topics to read about, which is why I recommend these to both beginners and already avid fans of classic film. So this one is called The Essential Directors, and this is by Sloane DeForest, which has written a few, I want to say 2 or 3 of the TCM Running Press books. Probably Raquel can confirm that for me, but she is a fantastic author. And yeah, I'm eager to get into this. So the thing with these books are they're quite thick. They're printed on very thick, good quality paper, so they are absolutely not skimping when TCM and Running Press put together these books, and they're absolutely chock full of photographs. So this is about all the essential directors. So there you guys go. This just came out, I believe it was before Christmas. So this is a new release. And the last one in my pile here, this is another book that I've chosen to vote on for my Patreon book club. So this is one of the other choices. This is Hollywood Victory. And this is also, sorry for that glare, guys. This is also a TCM Running Press book, but this one is a hardcover. And it is by Christian Blovelt. So there you go. And this is just stories about Hollywood in the midst of World War II. And this one, again, no different, printed on very high quality, thick paper with tons of photographs, tons of them. So again, the TCM Running Press books are just a wonderful, wonderful resource for classic film knowledge. Again, for both beginners and avid fans. And the thing I like most about them is at first, you don't even really have to read them right from the get-go. You could flip through them and just look at the photos, read the captions, and kind of get an understanding of what's going to be written about in the book. That's the first thing I like doing with the TCM Running Press books. I like to flip through them first to just get an idea of what to expect from them. So, do you guys have any classic film books that you're eagerly anticipating, or, I mean, they don't even have to be new releases, any on your bookshelf that you're eager to get to, or something that you've just started reading? Yeah, Raquel said you can't go wrong with a Sloane DeForest book. Yes. She wrote, what was the title? The one where she wrote about women in film. Oh goodness, it's like right on the tip of my tongue, but I'm having a total brain fart. It came out, I want to say 2 years ago. And she also wrote a science fiction film book for TCM Running Press. Yeah, Dave said, I love the TCM film series books. Dave, yeah. I mean, I love them too. I think my favorite one that TCM Running Press did together was the Pre-Code one. That one was, well, I mean, I'm biased because I absolutely love Pre-Code film, but that one is probably my favorite out of all of them. But they're all great. They did a wonderful coffee table size book on Natalie Wood. I want to say maybe 8 to 10 years ago, which is absolutely beautiful. And I've always been a huge fan of Natalie Wood, so I really liked that one. Okay, Raquel, yes, thank you. This is the book I was talking about. So Sloane DeForest, who wrote the Essential Directors book that I just showed, the one that she wrote about women in film is called Dynamic Dames. That book, first of all, I could not put it down when I was reading it. Second, it actually made me tear up in certain chapters. So basically what Sloane DeForest does in that book, Dynamic Dames, she chooses throughout Hollywood, so not just classic film, she goes right up to the present day. She chooses strong female characters and she profiles each one in each chapter. And there were some characters that she chose that, to me, growing up watching these characters on screen, they absolutely affected me, and they had such a big impact on me and the way I grew up. So when you're reading Dynamic Dames and you're reading the write-up that Sloane DeForest did on all these characters, they really hit hard. They did for me. I'm not sure about anyone else. But as a little girl watching these films, you're thinking, oh man, I want to be like her. For instance, Sigourney Weaver from Alien, she profiles her. She profiles, oh my goodness, Sarah Connor from Terminator and T2. She profiles them, and I remember as a kid watching those characters on screen thinking, "Oh my, I wanna be as strong as they are when I'm an adult." And then just reading those write-ups that Sloane DeForest did about them made me really emotional. So, yeah, it was fantastic. Oh, my good friend Dustin just came in. Hey, Dustin. I've got Star Smith's Jimmy Stewart bomber pilot just itching to be read. I mean, any book on James Stewart is going to be a winner. Well, I hope it's a winner. But James Stewart is one of my all time faves, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you here. Chris says, I'm looking forward to reading Hollywood Censor by Thomas Doherty. You know what? I've never heard of that. Is that a newer release or is it an older one? I'm going to look into that. Thank you so much for that recommendation. And Rob says he's interviewing the author in March. Rob, are you talking about Sloane DeForest? Because if you are interviewing her, I cannot wait for that. I know Raquel has interviewed her as well. Okay, so any other book recommendations, leave them in the comments. But we're going to move on now to classic film on DVD and Blu-ray. So I have a pile here. Not all of these are new releases. This is just stuff that I grabbed off my shelf before I went live because I felt like I wanted to talk to you about them. A lot of the classic films that I purchase online are from boutique label Blu-ray and DVD producers. So what that means is that they're not huge labels like Columbia or Paramount or Sony. These guys are not releasing tons and tons of copies of films. Boutique label is basically a label that releases limited quantities of films on Blu-ray and DVDs, and they oftentimes take the time and spend the money to restore these films the way they should be restored and loved for years to come. So a lot of my favorite boutique label Blu-rays, I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Let's try this out. So the first company that I want to profile, and you guys tell me, have you bought anything from them? So this Flicker Alley is based in the US. I think they are based in New York, but again, I could be wrong. So Flicker Alley produces or releases many, many classic films from the 1910s to the 20s, 30s, 40s, and some modern documentaries as well. So this is their website. If you have not purchased from them, I recommend that you go to their website and take a look. They do have streaming as well, but I am not 100% certain if it works in Canada. I know for sure it works in the States because that's where Flicker Alley is based. But their full Blu-ray and DVD catalog is fantastic. So let's see. This one here, this collection, In the Shadow of Hollywood, Highlights from Poverty Row, this one is great. So this one has 4 films on it, and I believe off the top of my head, I think there is a 5th film included in the special features on one of these discs. This one is a great collection of Poverty Row films. This one is one of my favorite documentaries of last year. So if you have seen the silent film version of Francis X. Bushman, oh my goodness. He was one of the greatest silent film stars before his career decline in the 30s. Uh, Ultimately, he found a home on television and radio because he had such a brilliant speaking voice. But this is a wonderful, wonderful documentary on Francis X. Bushman. So I encourage you guys to check that out. And yeah, they do all kinds of stuff. Laurel and Hardy, they do a lot of international cinema, a lot of it having to do with silent film. For instance, this is a French silent film. The Last Warning is another great silent film, but that one is American. So yeah, Flickr Alley is one of the best boutique labels that I can think of. Let's see. So Tony, James Stewart crops up in an excellent history book I read called Big Week, The Biggest Air Battle in World War II by James Holland. You know what? Yeah, it's a good point that you brought that out because James Stewart actually fought in World War II as a pilot, and I believe he also trained troops as well. So when the war ended and James Stewart came back to Hollywood, he was a changed man, obviously, because he had just fought in combat and he saw, I'm sure, a lot of gruesome things. So he was a changed man, and I believe the first film he made back from World War II was It's a Wonderful Life, which we all know and love. I don't think I've ever met anyone who said that they absolutely hated that film. A lot of people say that they don't particularly like it as a Christmas film, or they don't get it, or it just they can't watch old black and white movies. That's fair. Classic film is not for everyone, but the majority of people I've spoken to absolutely love that film, and for very good reason. Okay, so let's go back to, oh, can you guys just confirm? So when I shared my screen and I was talking about Flickr Alley, did you guys see that on screen? Just say yes or no in the comments, because I want to make sure I'm doing this right. I guess there's a lot of things to figure out on a first live stream. So one of the other boutique labels that I absolutely love is Eureka. They're based in the UK, and I know that my friend Luke, who was in the comments earlier, okay, yes, it does work. Thank you, Chris. So let's share again. Hang on. I'm going to show you guys the Eureka site. So this is a UK-based label. So as long as you guys have a region-free player, you will be fine. You'll be able to view the UK labels discs. So Eureka, some of them are region locked. Some of them aren't. It just depends. So the ones that I have in front of me are both region B. So that means they will not play on a North American manufactured Blu-ray player. If you have a region free player, then you're all set. It'll work. So Eureka is fantastic. They release a lot of great films and a lot of great film collections. This one here, just off the top of my head, Karloff at Columbia. This has numerous films that Karloff did at Columbia Studios. Maybe not the best films. I would say the majority of them are probably B films, but it's wonderful to have these films restored and together all in one set. And Eureka usually does include quite a few special features in their discs. And here's just more here. This is another great one. This one came out last year or the year before. And this has Bela Lugosi and Karloff in The Black Cat, The Raven, and Murders in the Rue Morgue. Now, Bela Lugosi is in all three. Karloff, I believe, is only in The Black Cat. So that's another great collection. And again, it's lovely to see groupings of these films together in one set rather than having to buy them all individually. Buster Keaton, Luke, where are you at? They actually, Eureka just re-released this one. It was, yeah, see, it's a reissue. This one was originally released a few years ago, and I guess because it was so popular and people were asking Eureka to bring it back, they decided to reissue it. And Eureka has a wonderful line called Masters of Cinema, and these are just like the creme de la creme, top tier films. Not all of them are classic films. Some of them are new-ish. But yeah, oh, this one here, the early Universal Volume 2 and early Universal Volume 1, I actually have beside me, so I'll get to those in a second. But yeah, they do wonderful work, and hands down, they're one of my favorite boutique labels. They're fantastic. So if you have not purchased from Eureka, look on their website. If you have a region-free player, then I think it's worth checking them out. Also, they offer free shipping, which is few and far between and very rare, because usually these UK based labels, and even the labels based in Australia like Imprint, they typically charge quite a bit of shipping. Obviously, because you're purchasing from overseas, it makes sense. But Eureka is free shipping. No matter how much you spend, you can buy one disc and it's still free shipping, which is one of the pluses that I love about them. So again, here's the Early Universal Volume 1 disc from Eureka. And Volume 2. Volume 2, I have not gotten to yet. So let's go back to Volume 1. This one features Skinner's dress suit, the Shield of Honor, and the Shakedown. The Shakedown is probably my favorite film on this set. It's a great, great film. So these are all silents. And then Volume 2 includes 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Calgary Stampede, and What Happened to Jones. Dustin, you may be interested in The Calgary Stampede. Dustin is a fellow Canadian. So yeah, Early Universal Volume 2. Let's go back to the comments. Tony says, I spend far too much money on the Eureka site. I feel you. I am very much the same. Oftentimes I have to stop myself from purchasing from there, again, because it's so convenient and free shipping. So, I mean, yeah, I have to stop myself from doing that most of the time. And then Luke says, I'm glad MOC, so Masters of Cinema, have moved back to silent films. There was a long drought. You know what, Luke? I have to agree with you. For a while there, you would see all the new releases coming out on Eureka Masters of Cinema. And a lot of them were films that either I had never heard of before, or films that I wasn't particularly interested in seeing. But lately, they seem to have gone back to releasing silent film. And to me, and I guess to you as well, that's a welcome return, because it's always great to see people releasing and watching silent film. You know what? Silent film is a bit funny, isn't it? Because for me personally, I mean, I'm such an avid silent film fan and watcher now in my late 30s. But previous to that, I had never really gotten into silent film until I was maybe in my mid-30s. So really, I've only been avidly watching them for the last 5-6 years. But I absolutely love them. I don't understand. Maybe it was as a kid growing up and as a teenager and someone in their early to mid-20s, I just was never interested in them. Yes, I had seen a few. Like, I think the first silent film I had ever watched was Nosferatu. And that was when I was a kid, because at the time I was obsessed with Dracula, and I wanted to watch every single movie ever made, either featuring Dracula or a vampire. So Nosferatu was the first one I watched, and I think I was around 9 or 10. And then, I don't know, it must not have done anything for me, because I never went back to silent film after that. I never wanted to watch another one after that. So yeah, it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I really started watching and appreciating and loving silent film. It's so funny, isn't it? How you could go years of being a classic film fan, but you almost wait to discover new genres. So silent film and Westerns was another one. I was really never into Westerns until I was, again, in my 30s. It's funny, because now I absolutely love them. I mean, I love silent film more than I do Westerns, but they're both absolutely great. And I'm so sorry that I didn't discover them earlier, because it feels like I've missed out on so much time and so many silents and Westerns that I could have watched growing up. So let's see. Oh, my friend Jeff is here. Okay, so Jeff, Raquel, Joel Williams, and Will McKinley are probably the first 4 classic film friends that I made through the online community on Twitter. I would say I've known them for almost a decade. So if you are on Twitter and you see people tweeting the hashtag TCM party, and basically what that means is you're all live tweeting while watching TCM and you use that hashtag. That's where I found all four of those people. So Raquel, Jeff, Joel, and Will. And to this day, they are still my closest online friends, and I love them all dearly. So thank you for joining, Jeff. It's great to see you here. And Luke says, I got hooked when I was around 25. So do you mean that you got hooked on silent film at 25 or just classic film in general? Tony says, when I was a kid, British telly with its 3 channels. Yeah, you know what? In Canada, it was the same. We only had maybe 6 channels. Used to show a lot of silent comedy to fill space. Same. It was the same here growing up. But again, I was never really into silent film, which is a shame. They also showed Nosferatu. But what really got me hooked was seeing Joan of Arc at the BFI. Okay, hang on. Let's stop. Do you mean The Passion of Joan of Arc? Because I would love to see that on the big screen. Tony, goodness gracious, that is easily one of the most beautiful, impactful silent films, or just films in general, that I have ever seen in my life. And I know Luke is a big fan of The Passion of Joan of Arc as well. So Tony, is that the Joan of Arc that you're talking about seeing at the BFI? Chris says Chaney's Hunchback might be my favorite silent film. Oh, Chris, good choice. You know what? Oh my goodness, I don't have it in front of me. Who was it? Kino Lorber, another US-based boutique label. They just restored and re-released the silent version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame before Christmas. I want to say it was sometime in October. Have you seen that disc? Because the print, although yes, it has aged, and there were portions of the print that I'm guessing were unsalvageable. Like some of it looks rough, is what I'm saying. But I mean, that's to be expected. That print is overall, it's quite nice what they did with it in terms of the restoration. So if you have not seen that, Chris, I would recommend that you check out Kino's latest release of that one. So Luke says, a trip to the moon creaked the silent film door ajar for me. Oh yeah. Oh goodness, Metropolis. Yes. Holy moly. What a masterpiece that film is. And then Buster drop kicked it off its hinges and I never looked back. I love the way you say that. Yeah. Yep. Totally true. God bless Buster Keaton. Okay, so Tony was talking about The Passion of Joan of Arc on the big screen. Tony, I'm sure I speak for everyone in the comments that we're all quite jealous of you. Luke, have you ever seen a screening at the BFI? I never have. I've been to London so many times before. It's my favorite place to go. But I can't believe I've never been to BFI South Bank. The next time I'm there, I definitely have to go. So, God, that must have been incredible. Oh my goodness. Okay, hang on. I'm trying to read everyone's comments. Again, guys, thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't think that there would be this many people or this much interaction. You guys are very kind. Thank you. So Stanley says, my love of silent classic films started in my mid to early what? I think you probably missed a word there. Thanks to several film classes I had taken as part of my minor. Okay, so early to mid 20s. What were you into prior to delving into silent classics? Okay, so in a nutshell, because a few of you already know this about me, my aunt introduced me to classic film when I was only 6 years old. She sat me down to watch The Wizard of Oz one day. And as soon as I saw that film, classic film was all I ever wanted to watch after that. I wasn't interested in watching modern film, which of course I did watch growing up because, you go to the movies with your friends or your parents bring home a VHS tape and you watch it. But The Wizard of Oz really kicked off a passion and a lifelong love of classic film for me. And it's all because a family member sat me down one day and said, "Here, watch this. I think you'll like it." So the first films that I got into were MGM musicals, and that stems from watching The Wizard of Oz, and horror. So the second, I used to call them old movies. So when I went to my aunt's house, her name is Grace, I would always say, "Grace, what old movies do you have that we can watch?" And the second one she ever showed me was Dracula from 1931. Maybe not the best film to show a 6-year-old child, but oh my God, after that, I was absolutely hooked. So it was MGM musicals and classic horror that first pulled me in. And then after that, I got into the RKO musical starring Fred and Ginger. And that led to all the Warner Brothers backstage musicals of the early 30s. I mean, just one thing led to another, led to another. And then when I was maybe a teenager, I got into screwball comedy, then film noir, which I never really understood at first. Yes, I used to watch noirs, but I didn't get them. And maybe the reason why is because I started with The Big Sleep. And if you've seen that film, you will know that it's hella confusing and no one knows what's going on. The only way I figured out what was happening in The Big Sleep was by reading the novel, which was significantly different than the film, but a lot of things that weren't explained in the film for obvious reasons, censorship, were explained in the book. So I finally grew to understand that film after reading the Big Sleep novel. And then, yeah, Westerns and silence followed after that. It's funny. We all have our own journeys, right? We all discover things slowly, one after another. Yeah. So let's see. What else have I missed? I really enjoyed hearing your thoughts on the Passion of Joan of Arc and the discussion you had with Daisuke. Oh, yeah. So do you guys, how many of you watch Daisuke's channel? I consider him to be a film expert. I mean, the guy knows everything, especially having to do with Criterion Collection. He's absolutely wonderful. That was the first video I did regarding classic film on YouTube. I remember being so incredibly nervous leading up to the filming of that video, but he just put me at ease right away. And he's a wonderful man. Wonderful man. Dave asks, is there a good Buster Keaton set to start with from Eureka or other labels? I would say if you want to start, and Luke, Dave, you could also speak to Luke about this because he is just one of the people I always go to when I want to talk about Buster Keaton. But the set that Eureka recently reissued, hang on, let's go back to that and I'll show you. Give me a second. I feel like I'm doing a work presentation. Okay, so Dave, this one here that they reissued, I would start with this one first. Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a good place to start because it has, I mean, this set is immense, Dave. This will keep you busy for like a month. It's got all of the short films that he made in Hollywood from 17 to 23. So you're pretty much set with this one. Here's all the short films here. And a few of these, or maybe even the majority of them, feature Roscoe Arbuckle, which is the person that gave Buster Keaton his start in Hollywood. So I would start here. To me, this is a great place to start for Buster Keaton. Also, if you don't want to buy from a UK-based label, or if you don't have a region-free player, I know that Dave does, but for anyone who's also listening and is interested in starting out with Buster Keaton, you can go to Kino Lorber. They also put out a collection of the complete Buster Keaton short films. It it's almost exactly the same as the Eureka one that I just showed you guys, but I don't think the special features are precisely the same. So I would start off with his short films and then go on to his feature length films. Let's see. Just going through the comments. Oh, come on. Okay. Honestly, Tony, please. With these stories, he saw the general at BFI. Jesus, Murphy. Tony, I again, I think I speak for everyone when I say that we are massively jealous of you right now. Good Lord. For anyone who is not familiar with Keaton's films, The General is probably one of my favorite. It's definitely in the top 3 of Buster Keaton films for me personally. Being able to see that on the big screen I would be just a dream come true for me, because not only because I'm seeing it on a large screen, but I'm seeing it with an audience, and to hear the audience's reaction to that film along with my reaction to it would be just a real treat. Oh, goodness gracious. So let's see what other stories we have. Luke is talking about Buster Keaton in the comments. Yeah, honestly, guys, if you have a question about Keaton, ask Luke. He's Razor Wire Reviews in the comments with the red user pick. Raquel agrees. Oh yeah, the big sleep is so confusing. My goodness, yes. And I mean, I guess there was a reason for that, because during, I think it was released in 1946, The Big Sleep. Obviously, Hollywood had implemented the production codes, so there were numerous things from the Big Sleep novel that they could not include in the Big Sleep film. So there's just tons of backstory missing from the movie, and that's what makes it so confusing for me. And again, once you read the book, you almost have this reaction of, oh, that's what that was all about. Yeah. Jeff, I know it's all about Dorothy Malone. She has maybe, I don't know how much screen time in The Big Sleep, like maybe 3 minutes. Oh, she's just a standout though. I could not live without a region-free player. Yeah, honestly, for me as a avid classic film fan and collector, having a region-free player just totally changed the game for me. It's one of the best investments that I have ever made. So if you guys are on the fence about purchasing a region-free player, if you're as passionate about film as most of us are here, go for it. You won't be sorry. There's a lot of selection to choose from. The one that I have is a Sony, and I believe the Sony one gets re-released every couple of years with updates, like the models change. But yeah, my Sony one I've not had any issues with, and I think it's about 4 years old now. It works like a charm. Raquel says she saw the general at Grauman's Chinese Theater. Oh my god, I'm so jealous of you guys. And then she asks, I would love to hear about movies you'd like to see on the big screen. I mean, how much do you have time for? I think, you know what, off the top of my head, I would say literally any silent film, because to me, when I watch a silent film, it's almost like watching a fairy tale. And I would absolutely love to see that on a massive screen. Just it's almost like when I watch a silent film, yes, to me it seems like a fairy tale. It looks like a complete fantasy unfolding in front of me. And that's the kind of experience, or that's the kind of film I would like to experience in a cinema, more so than, I know maybe I'll get hate for this, more so than like something like a film noir or a Western, because to me, those films necessarily don't have to be on a big screen for me to enjoy. But I feel like a silent film I can't even explain it. Just the experience would be heightened for me if I were to see that in a cinema. Tony says, I may have accidentally bought the Eureka Keaton set. That no accident. I'm not buying that. That was no accident. If anyone is looking to upgrade to a 4K Blu-ray disc player, they're all region free, I believe. Yeah, I think you're right, Andrew. I think that's right. Well, mind you, no, I think 4K discs are region free. I don't know that if you have a 4K player and you put okay, let me rephrase that. If you have a North American manufactured 4K disc player, would you be able to play a region B Blu-ray on it? That I don't know, but I do know that 4K discs are region free. So if anyone knows the answer to that, just put that in the comments. And then Luke says that's a perfect succinct way to describe the appeal of silent films. Yeah. So I guess you're referring to it being like a fairy tale, a fantasy. Yeah. It's difficult to explain because I guess it's all subjective. It's each of us is different in what we or in how we experience watching films, classic films and silent films. So it sometimes it is hard to explain, but I'm happy that someone can understand my gibberish. Yeah, so Mike confirmed. I think 4K discs are region free. You're right, Mike. Yeah. So again, if you have a North American produced 4K disc player, I don't know if you'll be able to play a region B Blu-ray disc. My friend Jeff says, my only silence on the big screen are Sunrise. Oh my God, Luke. I know Luke loves Sunrise, and so do I. That's a great one to see on a big screen for sure. And A Woman of Affairs. Oh my God, with Greta Garbo. Jesus. Guys, honestly, I don't know what state I would be in if I ever saw Garbo on a big screen. I think I would be catatonic. Someone would have to, uh, I don't know, like punch me in order to get me up out of my seat once the film was done. I think I would just be sitting there stunned the entire time and not be able to get up afterwards. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine seeing Garbo on the big screen? Goodness gracious. Okay, Mike says, but my 4K player does not play region B discs. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes, I had to do all day. Okay, all right. So I'm finally caught up on the comments. Again, thank you guys so much. I have a few more to get to. Let's make this an hour long. So maybe 7 more minutes to go. I don't know. No, maybe I'll save that for last. So Classic Flicks is another boutique label Blu-ray. And they recently, first of all, this started as a Kickstarter, which I backed, and that's where I got my copy from. But they recently restored and re-released the Abbott and Costello Show season 1. I think they are planning to do season 2 as well, but I just got this right before Christmas. I have not watched it yet. Honestly, guys, my to watch pile is astronomically huge, but I will get to this one soon. I grew up watching Abbott and Costello on TV because, again, in Canada, prior to the 90s, so I was born in 82. So in the 80s in Canada, we only had a few TV channels. I think it was 5 or 6 channels. And in order to fill airtime, they used to broadcast things like the Three Stooges or the Little Rascals and Abbott and Costello. That's what I grew up watching on like Saturday and Sunday mornings, was this stuff. So I am very excited that this got restored because this is something that we all need. I think especially now in these troubled times. And lastly, probably I want to say my favorite boutique label is, I'm going to share my screen, so just give me a second. Some of you probably already know what I'm going to say. This is probably my favorite label, Indicator. They are also based in the UK. Their stuff is unbelievable. I mean, the packaging alone is worth the purchase price of these things. Their box sets are impeccable. So recently, these are all their listings here, all their new releases. If you go to the box sets page, some of them now these are all limited edition, so these will not be around for an extended amount of time. It's once they sell out, they're gone. So they release a fair few noir sets, all from Columbia Studios. I believe they're getting ready to announce a box set number 5 coming out within the next few months. They have 1, 2, 3, and 4 out already. This is my newest purchase from them, the Mae West in Hollywood, 1932 to 1943 box set. I have that one next to me, so I'll show you in a second. This one, I was never a huge Mae West fan, but I wanted to purchase this box set, first of all, because it's an Indicator box set, and I know that their quality is through the roof. They will never disappoint me on quality, that's for sure. But I wanted to have this box set because, first of all, it's massive. The amount of films on this set are like through the roof. And I wanted to give Mae West a second chance. I wanted to sit down and watch all the films she made at Paramount in Hollywood with no preconceived notions in my head. So just start from a blank slate. And I have to be honest, I'm starting to really appreciate her now. Night After Night is probably my favorite film from this set that I've seen so far. And a lot of that has to do with George Raft because I absolutely love him. And this is his film. He's the one who stars in Night After Night. So if you guys are on the fence about purchasing from Indicator, I would highly recommend it. But however, I would wait for a sale because currently the John Ford at Columbia set is on sale. This is charged in Great British pounds. So it is quite pricey, especially when you factor in the rate conversion. So wait for a sale on these. Otherwise, their list of films is absolutely fantastic. So let me show you the ones that I have sitting in front of me. This is my favorite box set that I ever purchased from Indicator, and I believe, sadly, this one is now sold out. It's the Marlene Dietrich and Joseph von Sternberg at Paramount from 1930 to 1935. This is the exact same box set that Criterion released. However, the special features are different. So you're not getting the same special features. I have both box sets, the Criterion and obviously this one, but that's because I am obsessed with Marlene Dietrich and I want to own everything she's ever done. So do you need both sets? No, you absolutely don't. But if you are a huge fan of Dietrich's, then I would say go for both because, again, you are not getting the same special features. So there's this one, and each Indicator box set comes with a sleeve. And I don't know with the glare, you probably won't be able to see that. On the sleeve, it tells you what number you have. So this particular set was limited to 6,000 copies, and my copy is 5433. And then you get the films and a book inside. And it's not just like a little booklet. This thing is a book. And yeah, here's the Mae West one. Same design as the Dietrich and von Sternberg one. You get the slip here, which tells you your number. So out of 6,000 sets, mine is 1150. This is one that I had pre-ordered from them. So I guess that explains why my number is a lower one rather than a higher one. And again, you get all the films inside with a nice size booklet. That black thing you see there, that's the book. So it's thick. So let's go to the comments. Chris says, yeah, he loves Abbott and Costello. I've got the old DVD set. Time to upgrade. You'll notice a difference, a massive difference. So as part of the Kickstarter on the Abbott and Costello season 1, we got regular updates on how the restoration was coming. And if you saw the state of the film prior to them restoring it, you would be absolutely appalled. I mean, it is night and day. So, again, I have not sat down to watch this yet, but as part of the Kickstarter, we saw side by side comparisons of snippets of the shows. So they would show us the unrestored film and then next to it, the restored film. Incredible work. You see, this is what I love about boutique labels because they really put in the time and the money on these things because they know that there is an audience out there that appreciates this stuff and is willing to spend money on it in purchasing it. So yeah, you know what? If you have the DVD set, I would recommend that you upgrade for sure. And again, it's available through Classic Flicks. If you're in the US, I think you can purchase directly off the Classic Flicks website or through Amazon. I hate to single out Amazon here, but I know that for me, especially because I'm in Canada, some of these boutique labels do not ship to Canada, or if they do, it's quite expensive in terms of shipping. So sometimes in Canada, Amazon is really our only resource for purchasing some of these things. So Addie Holly, and I believe that's Adrian, right? What are some of your favorite movies past the 1930s? So do you mean later on, like from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and onwards? I love the MGM musicals, so films like Singing in the Rain or Easter Parade or The Bandwagon. I That to me is it's comfort watching to me. So the Singing in the Rain, I remember being in grade 7, 8, and 9. No joke, guys. I used to come home from school, obviously do my homework first because otherwise I get into trouble by my parents. And I would watch my VHS copy of Singing in the Rain every single day and night. I am not kidding you guys. I used to watch that movie every single day, or if it was during the week, every night. I know that film backwards and forwards, every single line. I know every single tap in that film, like in regards to the tap dancing. That to me, that is probably my number 2 favorite musical, my first being The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is my all-time favorite movie. Singing in the Rain is my number 2 musical. Absolutely love that one. So, as well as A Place in the Sun with Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift, that is another favorite of mine that's newer. And you know what? I also love modern film. It's not just classic film that I watch. I love modern film as well, particularly independent film, and that's where uh, I get Raquel to give me a lot of recommendations because she attends a number of film festivals, and I always look to her reviews of the film she watches at these festivals because that's where I discover indie film is through her and her website. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one that I discovered through Raquel, and that was easily one of the most powerful, touching, emotional films that I watched. Was it last year that we all watched that film? Or was it in 2020? I think it was last year. That was a standout. Absolutely beautiful, that film. If you have not seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I would check it out. It's not a loud film. It's very quiet. It's very introspective, but it's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yep, Adrian. Would love to see a Gloria Swanson box. Oh, goodness gracious, you are speaking my language. You know what? There's so many times that every time I see all the new release announcements that are coming out from these boutique labels, do you know how many times I've thought to myself, why isn't anyone releasing Gloria Swanson stuff in a box set? I I don't know what to say about that woman. That woman was an absolute force of nature. She was a film pioneer, if you ask me, because she was around right from when film started, film production, I mean, right up until the 1950s and 60s. So she saw it all. And if you have not read her autobiography called Swanson on Swanson, I urge you guys to pick that up. You can find secondhand copies online everywhere. There's a lot of copies available. That is my favorite classic film book that I have ever read, and I have read many. That's where I get all my classic film knowledge from, is from books. So I make sure that I read countless classic film books throughout the year because to me, I just want to soak everything up and learn about everything. And yeah, Swanson on Swanson is my all-time favorite classic film book. The stories that that woman tells were incredible. Wonderful that you describe Place in the Sun as newer. I mean, to me, it's new-ish, because the majority of films that I watch are from the 20s and 30s. Those are my two favorite film decades, is the 20s and 30s. Portrait of a Lady on Fire was astonishing, really incredible. Yeah, I totally agree, Mike. You're absolutely right. Dave says the same thing. It's amazing. Yeah. One of the best films I've ever seen. I'd highly recommend Siama's latest film, Petite Maman, too. It's brilliant. Yeah. So he's also referring to Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I remember we all watched in this group. So me, Luke, Dave, Raquel, we all watched that film around the same time, and we were all blown away by it. Okay, so oh my god, it's already after an hour. How did that go by so quickly? Goodness gracious. Okay, so guys, let's wrap this up. And again, thank you all for attending. I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate you engaging so much with each other and with me in the comments. So if you have any questions to ask, please feel free. It doesn't have to be about film. It could be about anything. Just ask away, and yeah, we'll wrap this up. The last disc I had on my desk that I wanted to talk about is Oasis Nebworth in 1996. So this came out, I want to say, in December. I know that not everyone likes Oasis. Fair enough. For me, they are one of my top 5 favorite bands of all time. I remember being, oh goodness, I 14 or 15 when I first heard an Oasis track. And in Canada, we didn't hear about them right away. We heard about them when their second album came out in the UK. So I remember riding on the school bus, listening to their music on my Walkman, my Sony Walkman, over and over again. They were probably one of the first British bands that I ever really got into, aside from the Beatles or Bowie or Queen. Uh, I love Oasis, and again, I know not everyone does, but if you are an Oasis fan, I would definitely check this Blu-ray out. The documentary film was fantastic, and both the Saturday and Sunday gigs are on this set as well, the full gigs. So you'll get both of them on there. So let's see here. Agree with you, Ree Swanson. Have you read Adventures with D.W. Griffiths? I have not. So I will make note of that and I will read it, but I'm sure that Swanson features heavily in that book. Thank you very much, Ian, for the suggestion. And then thanks for your time. Oh, guys, you guys are wonderful. I'd stick around all day. This was so much fun. Yeah, I could easily stick around all day too, but you have to adult, you have chores and errands to do, or at least I do. I've seen Noel twice. Incredible. Oh goodness, that man, he is such a prolific songwriter. I don't care what anyone says. I know a lot of people don't like the Gallagher brothers, but Noel can craft absolute magical tracks out of barely anything in a matter of minutes. And just his knowledge too. When you watch modern interviews with him, I'd say if you watched interviews with him from the 90s, he was probably high most of the time. But if you're watching interviews filmed with him now, he's just a wealth of information. The guy, Jesus, I would love to just sit down and talk with him for a day, just talking about music. High flying birds, not Oasis. Yeah, yeah. I gathered that much. Yeah. Okay, so if that's it, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all your suggestions, recommendations, and your questions. It's been an absolute joy seeing you guys. So until the next one, take care and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.